Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
This week on Brands That Build India, we feature a brand and a company that put India on the roads. The company has now pulled the brakes on its first and most iconic brand, but it will always be one that's loved and respected by the country.
I still own that car. It's more than 30 years old.
वो तो मेरी पहली कार थी तो बहुत ही अच्छी लगती है और आज तक भी हम उसको रिमेम्बर करते हैं.
First and the foremost thing, it was in my budget.
Wherever you go in India, you will get the service.
Well, it's easy to guess what they're talking about, the much-loved Maruti 800. On the 14th of December in 1983, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi handed over the keys of the first ever Maruti 800 to its lucky owner. It was the first product of a company that has had a long, successful run off the Indian roads, with its first few years passing virtually unchallenged. Let's take a look at the Maruti journey. Maruti was the brainchild of the late Sanjay Gandhi, who had been given the license to make a wholly indigenous car. However, the company languished and was unable to take off until after his death in 1980. A year later, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi gave the go-ahead for foreign collaboration for India's first affordable passenger vehicle. Talks were on with Volkswagen, but those fell through because the German company refused to commit to certain conditions on localization. That's when a Suzuki official travelling in India on business at the time heard of the project and jumped in.
We met Mitsubishi and we met Suzuki and we met Nissan and all that. And because Suzuki was then a small company, we found that we were talking directly to the president of the company and the president was directly talking to us.
That alliance turned out to be a win-win for both. Initially only assembled in India, local production started in 1983. Priced at 53,000 rupees, the car was affordable and easy to drive. Within a year, the Gurgaon plant had an installed capacity of 40,000 units for the Maruti 800 and the Maruti van. By 1986, Maruti was exporting cars to many countries, including Hungary and some neighbouring countries. As for Suzuki, this helped catapult one of the smallest Japanese car companies to a global manufacturer. Today, Suzuki is facing financial problems elsewhere in the world, but up to 25% of its sales come from Maruti Suzuki.
I would say at that time, everybody who could afford a car bought and drove. It doesn't matter about his wealth, status, position, society, nothing. The richest people in this country, the most powerful, thought it was a prestige symbol to have a Maruti 800. Mr. Ratan Tata has driven a Maruti 800. Arun Nehru used to drive a Maruti 800. And you know, he's not a small man.
The Maruti brand was virtually unchallenged for close to 15 years. Many auto experts say that the license rule and the excise and import benefits given to Maruti were what helped the company compete on price, with the same benefits being denied to Hindustan Motors, Premier Padmani and other companies interested in entering the market.
On the one hand, the government managed to keep out new entrants, and on the other hand, the government also ensured that existing operators, existing manufacturers did not play with a level playing field. Maruti as a whole may have been very different. Maruti, the Indian automotive industry itself, automotive market would have been very different. Maruti may have had to refurbish the Maruti 800 much faster than it did. And for all you know, maybe the Maruti 800 would have been, consigned to history books in 1992 or something.
But that didn't happen, and the Maruti 800 was the highest selling car from 1983 to 2004 before it was overtaken by another Maruti Suzuki product, the Alto. On the back of the Maruti 800, Maruti Suzuki launched the Maruti van in 1984 and the Gypsy in 1985. The Maruti brand moved to high-powered cars like the Maruti 1000 in 1999, which later became the very successful S-Team.
Maruti Suzuki S-Team, the easy-to-own big car. Big on mileage, big on savings.
Well, initially, because of the lack of competition in the market, Maruti was able to capitalize on the fact that they were the only ones who had a product to offer to the Indian consumer. The Gypsy became the mainstay of not just a lot of people within India, but also the defense forces for that matter. There was a lot of defense buying for the Gypsy at that point in time. Nonetheless, over time, what Maruti has built on is reliability, has built quality. So service quality levels are extremely high. The ownership value that you get with the Maruti product today is extremely high.
Through the initial years, Maruti Suzuki had little advertising other than bookings and allotment announcements. It was only after opening up of the economy that other global manufacturers got a foothold in. And only then did Maruti actually need to advertise.
For a long time, when there was a shortage of cars, there was really no marketing involved. It was arranging orderly distribution of cars.
As more competitors flooded the market in different segments, advertising in the sector also heated up. Today, there are close to 50 cars, new or variants from different companies, launched every year, and that comes with high decibel advertising. And so Maruti has also stepped up its advertising. Today, the company has 14 brands that are all well advertised.
Make way for the Ciaz.
Our focus is on highlighting the product features whenever we introduce the new products in the market, and also there are some model launch budgets. So during the launch of the models, there is a big spurt in the activities, and that creates an awareness about the new products with the customer. And then subsequently we take it from there, and a lot of data mining is done.
For the Maruti corporate brand, the most iconic ads, though, are the ones that stick to its core image, that of being a value-for-money, reliable, good service brand.
Champion.
While some may argue that that has prevented Maruti from ever getting a foothold into the premium segment, it also means that Maruti Suzuki has the widest mass of loyal consumers. This tremendous customer loyalty has the peg of all corporate brand communication. For the last 15 consecutive years, Maruti has won the J.D. Power Customer Satisfaction Awards amongst all car manufacturers.
One of the key challenges that we're always aware of, and the marketing team and who we work with has always sort of pointed that, and it's deeply sort of ingrained in us, is that Maruti is a brand that dominates, as I said, the landscape with its national stature. You have to do something. You have to hone in on a national truth, an insight that's not only pan-Indian, but that sort of resonates with a larger truth. An insight that's commensurate with the stature of the brand. So for instance, when we did the Kitna Deti Hai campaign, now you may, as a consumer, you may be a Ferrari consumer in this country, and you may go and sort of look at a Ferrari and say, my God, you may be awestruck by the dynamism of the sort of design. But you would be a true Indian if you suddenly would ask the salesman, Kitna deti hai, right? I mean, that's who we are.
The Desire today is still one of their strongest selling sedans, or rather one of their strongest selling cars overall. They still haven't been able to move out of that mold where Maruti is considered as a small car or a fronty, for example, what we used to call the 800. And they haven't been able to move out of that image very strongly. They have been trying to get into the premium segments with the Ciaz, what we've seen recently in the Suzuki, the SX4 and the Baleno in the past. But again, where Maruti's strengths lie is in kick-starting new segments. They really haven't done too well where a segment already existed.
In 1999, Maruti realized that it needed to move beyond just cars, no matter how iconic and popular they were. It began a slew of services, from auto financing to auto insurance to reselling of Maruti cars, which has helped grow the brand even more. Maruti starting with a small car and growing into a big brand. One fun fact about the 800, right till the end, 3,000 to 4,000 units were being sold a month, with sales going up during the marriage season because it was the preferred dowry car. The quirks and perks of being a much-loved Indian car. It's time now for a short break, but on the other side, we get an expert view on the Maruti brand.
I think so many people will remember their first Maruti. And the first time one saw Maruti. I have a vivid memory of the first time I saw.
What's yours? welcome back. You're watching the Brands That Build India, and this week we're talking about Maruti. Joining us now is Santosh Desai, the Managing Director and CEO of Future Brands. Santosh, appreciate you joining us here on the show. You know, we're talking about Maruti. It's enjoyed unbeatable dominance in the Indian car market, and perhaps is a clear example where strategy of a company has defined its advertising and communication. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think if you look at it, if you look at the success of Maruti, I think so much of it has to do with getting the product market configuration right. And the advertising has been a consequence. I mean, advertising in this case has clearly not been
incidental.
It has been incidental. I think right time, right place, right product, right price, you know, getting the service infrastructure right quickly, and you know, outreach, distribution outreach that is managed extremely well. I think if you look at, you know, all these pieces falling in place, I think that is really the Maruti story.
How much of the Maruti story is the Maruti story because it's virtually enjoyed a monopoly in the Indian car market up until, say, the last decade and a half?
But that has had a lot to do with it. I mean, the fact that you came in on the back of, you know, a market which certainly was not being well served. So, I mean, with the Fiat and an Ambassador. And if you look at the early days of the passion that the consumer passion, it was not consumer interest, that the Maruti enjoy, it's unbeatable. I mean, it's, you know, it has without parallel. But I think the real story in some ways begins then. It is one thing to come in and enjoy, you know, that kind of monopoly. But it's another to actually make good on it and to deliver consistently and to then build a platform which is what they've done.
You know, speaking of the Maruti story, and there's a bunch of products that come from the Maruti stable, you know, whether it's the Dzire, it's the SX4, it's the Alto, it's the Maruti 800 and so on and so forth. But it's really the mother brand that's, in a sense, driving communication, advertising. The sub-brands, at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't really care whether it's a Wagoner. The consumer cares that it's a Maruti.
Maruti is a presumptive choice, and it's a presumptive choice because they've tended to get things right in terms of the product. So there is an element of trust that gets built in through consistent entries of products that are geared to the consumer's needs. The other is, of course, the service. Because, you know, reliability and particularly at the lower end of the market, the idea that you are buying a car, you're really going out of your mind. You know, it's a huge call to make.
And the promise on total cost of ownership, and that's where the service aspect comes in.
The resale, the service, overall, the package that Maruti delivers, I think, you know, keeps people in the family. And I think then it becomes a choice of which Maruti to buy, rather than which car to buy.
And it's really been driven by customer satisfaction. I mean, the entire strategy, while you can keep arguing about the value-conscious proposition, but customer satisfaction has actually driven Maruti's strategy, has it not?
Absolutely.
And which reflects in all the JD Power surveys that they continue to beat.
And I think it's very creditable, you know, because when you look at a JD Power kind of a survey, or when you look at customer satisfaction is where you normally get found out. And the flip side of being a large selling brand is the fact that you can have a lot of unhappy voices. So what you've got in the case of Maruti is actually the opposite.
What stood out for you as far as the Maruti advertising is concerned? I know we said that, you know, advertising in that sense has been incidental to the Maruti story or Maruti's success. But what has stood out for you as far as Maruti's advertising and communication is concerned?
See, I think when they speak the middle class language, you know, there was this campaign with this little boy. And then there was, of course, the Kitna Deti Hai campaign, which I think in some ways is the story of India. You know, I mean, it brings down, you can represent Indian value consciousness through that advertising because it's so distilled. I think when Maruti gets its advertising right, and it is when it speaks effortlessly in the voice of its consumer and is able to marry what its promises with the lives of its consumers. And it has managed to do that on more than one occasion. So you would
say that it has succeeded in positioning that core differentiation in the marketplace through its communication and advertising?
Yeah, I think so. I think it has done that. And I don't think that advertising is consistently fantastic. But I think that
when they get it right,
they really do get it right.
Santosh, hold that thought for a minute. Let's see what comes to mind when we ask people about the Maruti brand.
It's really good that a company like Maruti is there in this country.
कहीं हम सुनसान जगह में भी गए हो तो भी मारुति की सर्विस इमीडिएट हो जाती थी.
The fondest memory with Maruti 800 was like I went to the wedding hall for my wedding, in fact, with the same car.
Maruti 800 obviously मेरा प्यार भी बोल सकते हैं.
Well, as we just saw there, Santosh, the most iconic Maruti brand perhaps is the 800. And the company has now decided to put the 800 to rest. outlived its purpose, served its purpose. What do you think this is going to do in terms of the Maruti brand image, customer loyalty, and so on and so forth? Will it have any impact? Because it's been morphed into the Alto and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it will be remembered fondly, but I don't think it will be missed in a real sense. It will be, I think it's the kind of thing where I think so many people will remember their first Maruti. And the first time one saw Maruti, I have a vivid memory of the first time.
What's yours?
Mine is, I was in Ahmedabad, and it was not a Maruti 800.
I learned to drive on a Maruti van, by the way, yeah.
My first car that I saw was the Maruti van, and I thought it was the most beautiful thing in the world. You know, because I was at campus in Ahmedabad and I saw
That's
this
how
car
deprived we thought Maruti vans are the most beautiful thing in the world.
I promise you, I was transfixed by the Maruti van. So I have this vivid memory of my first glimpse of a Maruti.
You know, to stay relevant, to continue its dominance, Santosh, before I let you go, what do you think the company will need to focus on?
Well, I think it will be actually in figuring out what is new and what consumers want increasingly within, I think, their core segment. I think it is and I think it's time for them to innovate a little more on the product. I think the consumer of tomorrow will want the merging of technology within the car. The one part of its story was reliability, reach, comfort. The other part of its story, the same consumer now is looking to be excited, is looking for newer sort of innovations to take place. And I think that is the next challenge for the market.
So dil mange more in that sense. Santosh, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks very much. We'll see you again next week.
My pleasure.
On that note, it is time for us to take a break. But when we return, we'll see what Maruti is doing to give back to society.
We have simulators where we can replicate all kinds of road conditions. So we are doing that as one part of our CSR.
Welcome back. Maruti Suzuki was incorporated with the intention of serving the community with an affordable means of personal transport. And on the back of its first vehicle, the Maruti 800, the company has grown and served the community in many more ways. Maruti is making an effort to repay those villages that have been displaced or affected by their factories. And so last year, Maruti employees contributed nearly 10,000 hours volunteering in neighborhood communities. The local communities prioritize the areas where they need help, and the programs usually support school education, health awareness and sanitation. Realizing that the number of deaths in road accidents was rising alarmingly, Maruti recently launched the nationwide Road Safety and Skill Development Program. One of the services it also offers is Maruti Driving Schools. Though free for members of the scheduled castes and tribes and other backward castes, it charges a premium for other people wanting to learn how to drive on Indian roads.
We will create the facilities for people to learn driving properly. And we do that by using simulators, very much like what they do for pilot training where you have simulators. So we have simulators where we can replicate all kinds of road conditions. People are required to deal with it before they can actually pass the course. So we are doing that as one part of our CSR.
With more vehicles getting onto roads each year, Maruti is making an effort to follow global emission norms, reduce its dependence on natural resources and train its suppliers in environmental best practices as well. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of The Brands That Built India. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We'll be back with more, same time next week. Till then, from the entire team, thanks very much for watching.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.